Welcome to Rich Conversations. This is our first episode of 2024, episode 301. Can you believe that? We've done 300 episodes. Golly. And in episode 300, we had a great friend on, Joe Anhalt, and we were in New York recording. And it kind of became this real kind of intimate, very honest expression of what I feel about the podcast and how it's stopped being fun. Like, I stopped having fun. And since then, in just life in general, I feel so great right now. I feel the clearest I've been in over 10 years. Maybe like 12 years, 13 years. It feels great. I'm just kind of simplifying my life, and I'll share more about that in other episodes. But in this new episode of 2024, I thought I'd kind of just share where we're at, where we're headed, and what it's going to kind of be. Now, when we start thinking of other people or other things that people are doing, we can get into this area where we compare ourselves or compare, say, this podcast to other ones or blah, 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 blah. I don't want I want this podcast to be fun for me. And so that means just doing what we're going to do and not feeling like it has to be specifically like this. And then we have to do that. And then we have to release this kind of content on this day. No, it's going to be really informal. We're getting back to the nature of the podcast, and that's just rich conversations. Whether it's me or if we have guests on, it's going to be informal, casual. We're just going to be hanging out. We're friends hanging out, just exploring life and the world in the 21st century. And I'm just going to, I think now, just share more of what's on my mind. But something that's on my mind right now and is kind of recent going on is I've been following, I have influences. I have a lot of different influences. One of my favorite things to do is follow sports. I love sports. I grew up playing sports. Sports is such a huge part of like rural Wisconsin culture. And I'm also interested in realizing my potential, being the best person that I can be. And so over the years, I've looked at different coaches in professional sports, and amateur sports, I suppose, and see what they're doing. How can I apply that to my life? Now, kind of notorious on this podcast, I talk about Phil Jackson all the time, and he's one of the pinnacle influences, I would say, in my life in a way. But there are other coaches that have also had a tremendous impact on me, and they all at the same time in 1 week transitioned. So besides Phil Jackson, I would say Pete Carroll, Nick Saban, and Bill Belichick have been influential on kind of my outlook and philosophy and approach to life. Now coaching in general, coaching is about working with others, and putting them and preparing them to be in a position where they can realize their full potential, to perform well, to realize their potential. And there's so much joy in that process and seeing people reach that, to visualize a moment and then to celebrate that moment because of all the work you put in, and it's so rewarding and so amazing. And so while I've learned from other coaches, I also kind of coach other people too, performers, and just sharing wisdom and approaches that can put people in better position to succeed. And so I borrow and tinker from so many different sources, but when we're looking specifically at sports and coaches specifically, those four have been influential. So I thought I would share, what's crazy. So like Bill Belichick, Nick Saban, and Pete Carroll all, one retired, one mutually parted ways. And it was just so astonishing to me that three of these like big influences in my life all in the same week transitioned into something else. And I was consuming all the content I could. I wanted to know the inside and out of it all. When I look at coaches, and the reason these three, and then Phil Jackson being the fourth in particular, is I'm not interested in learning, well, I am learning from someone who won one championship. That's cool, and that's a very cool thing. But I'm interested in multiple championships, a reign of dominance. I am all about that, and applying that process and those standards and expectations to my life. So these individuals are at the top in my book, and it's kind of an end of a generation or an era, because they are kind of older coaches, and right now we don't know who will emerge as the prominent coaches like that can have this reign of dominance. And I suppose it's more so in my age bracket now, which is really interesting and fascinating. But I thought I would share what I've learned from each of them. So with this being kind of a new format, it's not a new format, it's a revised format for the podcast, but let's just have fun and like talk about different topics, and we'll have guests on too. But we'll have a couple episodes coming up here where we do talk about Pete Carroll, Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, and Phil Jackson, and celebrate their coaching durations, stints. I've been so consumed with it over the last week, and so luckily I have a podcast where I can kind of share my perspective on it, right?